Coming up on today's show, we have a trade to discuss that involves the Boston Celtics. And as we approach the February 10th NBA trade deadline, I have a feeling that the Celtics aren't done. So if you want to stay in the know with everything going down with this basketball team, and if they make a trade, we'll let you know. Hit that red subscribe button down below and join the Boston Celtics Today family by Chat Sports. Welcome into Boston Celtics Today by Chat Sports. I am your host, Chase Sr. The Boston Celtics have made a trade for a player who a lot of people know about. Bol Bol making his way from the Denver Nuggets to the Boston Celtics, and that is not it. And also, this is a trade that does involve three teams: the Boston Celtics, San Antonio Spurs, and the Denver Nuggets. So Boston going to get Bol Bol and PJ Dozier, two guys who I think are going to be able to come in off the bench and be rotational players for Boston. The Spurs get Juancho Hernangomez and a 2028 second-round pick via Denver. And the Nuggets receive Bryn Forbes, who last year played for the NBA champion Milwaukee Bucks. And he's a pretty good sharpshooter, and there have been some rumors about Bryn Forbes potentially going to Boston. Instead, he goes to the Denver Nuggets. So with that, Celtics fans, chime in the comment section down below and give me your one-word reaction to the Celtics making this trade. For me, it's like, okay, mundane trade, somewhat average, but you let me know and chime in the comment section down below. As for Bol Bol, I kind of liked him in the NBA bubble. This is a player who kind of intrigues me for a couple of reasons. He's got wonderful size. Now, he's atrocious on the defensive end of the floor, but because of that tall, lanky frame, he's really able to get his buckets from all across the floor. And I liked him in the NBA bubble because he displayed one of the key attributes nowadays in the NBA, the ability to put the biscuit in the basket. But as I talked about, really, he's a bad defensive player, and ever since he kind of balled out in the NBA bubble with the Denver Nuggets, he hasn't been able to earn consistent minutes with the Denver Nuggets. Now, a couple weeks ago, he was traded from the Nuggets to the Detroit Pistons. That trade was then shot down by the NBA because he failed his physical. We didn't know why at the time. The 7'2", 220-pounder who went to Oregon and played very well with the Ducks before suffering an injury then wasn't then traded to the Detroit Pistons. We now know why. This according to Shams Charania of The Athletic. Denver Nuggets forward Bol Bol has decided to undergo surgery on his foot and will be sidelined for 8 to 12 weeks, sources tell The Athletic and Stadium. Bol's trade to Detroit was voided last week because of issues with his physical exam. So there are a couple of concerns that I have here. Bol Bol isn't the beefiest cat. He's 7'2", 220, ran into injury issues at Oregon, and now some of those injury issues have surfaced at the NBA level as well. Plus, you couple that with the fact that he's not a good defensive player. I'm not sure what his future is going to be with Boston. This is kind of a buy low, hope to get some decent upside and potential down the road if you're Boston. And we know that this is a franchise that does prioritize and do a good job of developing talent over time. Bol Bol this year hasn't done much, of course. 2.5 points per game, 1.5 rebounds, shot around 55.5% from the floor and 25% from three. Flashed at the NBA bubble, but that has not translated into consistent success for a guy who at Oregon, a lot of people were intrigued by because of that physical frame, kind of looks like a guy like Kevin Durant. Of course, doesn't play up to that caliber because Kevin Durant, one of the best bucket getters we've ever seen in the course of NBA history. So basically what Boston is doing here, they're giving up nothing. Like absolutely nothing. Juancho Hernangomez was getting DNP'd consistently for the Celtics under head coach Ime Udoka, I think has done a pretty decent job in his first year. And they're getting back Bol Bol and PJ Dozier, who can be a rotational piece and got around 19 minutes per game as kind of a spot starter and bench player throughout his career and this year for the Denver Nuggets. So with that, another question for you, because here at Chat Sports, we're all about the audience engagement and audience interaction. Grade the trade for Bol Bol down in the comment section. A, B, C, D, or F. Interested to see where you're all standing on this one. Boston Celtics Today is presented to you today thanks to our sportsbook partner, BetUS. Best deal that any sportsbook has to offer. All you have to do is plug in that link down below, chatsports.com/bet, and enter the promo code CHAT125. Let's just say you put in $100 into your account, you get an additional $125 back. That's $225 to game with. You can bet on NBA prop bets. You can bet on NBA spreads. NFL divisional playoff slate this weekend is loaded on Saturday and Sunday. Get those bets in using that link down below, as well as that promo code to my right. Now we pivot to PJ Dozier, 6'6", 205 pounds, played his college ball at South Carolina. This year with the Denver Nuggets, 5.5 points per game, 3.5 rebounds. He shot 36.5% from the floor and 31% from distance, and he was getting around 18, 19 minutes per night. Now, for Boston, their bench, especially the back half of that bench, I think is one of the weaker bench units in the Eastern Conference. And by bringing in PJ Dozier, you're hoping to just kind of fortify that bench unit to a certain degree. I don't know if PJ Dozier is going to be able to get 18, 19 minutes per game with Boston. Of course, Denver in the thick of the playoff race in the Western Conference, so he now joins a similar playoff race now going to the Celtics. We'll see what those minutes are. I'm actually interested to see how much burn PJ Dozier is going to get. As for Juancho Hernangomez, he had a nice stretch a couple years ago with the Minnesota Timberwolves, but really since then hasn't been able to prove himself and barely got any run at all with Boston this year. He goes to the San Antonio Spurs. We know that Greg Popovich and that organization likes international players, especially Spaniards, and maybe by bringing in Juancho Hernangomez, they envision a larger role for him as compared to that role that he didn't have with the Boston Celtics. Is this a move in the right direction for Boston? Type Y for yes, type N for no. Once again, chime in the comment section below me. As the NBA trade deadline approaches, I don't think the Celtics are going to be done wheeling and dealing to try to fortify this roster and improve it. It's been a frustrating team up to this point. We were having the same conversation last year as well. Right now, 23-22 on the year, struggling, and I think they need to make a change or changes to the roster. Woj has reported that the Celtics will be big players at the NBA trade deadline. That's another reason why you hit that red subscribe button down below, because we'll keep you up to date with all of the moves that the Celtics do or don't make. And I don't believe, and Woj doesn't believe, that they're going to be trading Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown. I think that's the smart approach going into the NBA trade deadline. These are two of the preeminent young wings in the NBA. And I think you just find a way to make it work. As for what Woj had to say about the Celtics going into the deadline, could Marcus Smart be traded? Could Dennis Schroder be traded? Potentially. We continue to talk about this here on the channel. Woj on the Celtics' potential moves. Marcus Smart and some of the young players on the roster, the second or third year guards and forwards, I think they are seeing what the value is for those players out there. Josh Richardson, Dennis Schroder, that's a player that I think they can keep building up his value. He's on a one-year deal worth less than $6 million. I think those are all players available in the marketplace. And I think when you canvass the landscape across the NBA, those are players who other teams might have interest in. Josh Richardson, kind of a two-way guard. Marcus Smart, of course, is a bulldog and a back alley bully. Solid offensively, better defensively. He is on a fat contract, though. But other teams might look at that and say, hey, he's under team control for the next couple of years, and he can be a culture changer for a player that is trying to get over the top, get into the playoffs, or maybe make a deep run in the playoffs. Marcus Smart this year, 11.5 points per game, 5+ assists, very good defensive player. And as for Dennis Schroder, one of the best bargain deals this year across the NBA. Under contract for only 1 year, as we talked about, for less than $6 million, and he's averaging 16 points per game. He can put the ball on the deck, create a little bit. He's got a little bit of wiggle. He can get to the rack, and he's never been the most efficient shooter from beyond the arc, but if he can go on a heater, he can give you some shooting upside as well from outside. Should the Celtics move on from a key piece at the deadline, like a Dennis Schroder, like a Marcus Smart? That's my final question for you on today's show. I hope by now you got that comment section popping. Type 1 for yes, type 0 for no. Thanks for watching today's show. Make sure you hit that red subscribe button down below. We're going to continue to churn out Boston Celtics coverage here on the channel.